This is the Daedric Prince of Destruction, who has 1000 health, the most health in the game. And on Master difficulty, we only deal 1/6 of our actual damage. This effectively gives him 6000 health. But yet, with this weapon setup, we can destroy him with ease. Even the second most tanky enemy in the game, the Goblin Warlord, will go down in just a few hits. And if you do manage to reach the end of this video, you'll be hitting for over 12,000 damage a hit or more with this setup. And you can do it at level 1 without any cheats or glitches. It's obviously up to you how overpowered you make it, but this actually makes Master difficulty playable. But today's sponsor, Opera GX, has a custom Oblivion Remastered browser mod with animated backgrounds and optional sound effects. So typing can now sound like lockpicking. Opening, closing new tabs sounds like this. This is Opera GX, a moddable browser with tons of custom themes for Fallout, Elden Ring, all with their own custom effects. But this browser doesn't just look good. If you're watching a video like this, for example, you can just overlay it in the corner and then watch it as you browse with Opera GX. You can adjust the size and follow along with me side by side while you're working, and the inbuilt ad blocker will stop any annoying interruptions. When you need gaming performance, you can just crank down the RAM, CPU, and network usage of the browser, and you can toggle it on and off at the click of a button. And it can import all of your old browser settings so you can make a seamless transition to using Opera GX. You can download it for yourself from the link in the description below. Now, to create the ultimate weapon, we must first obtain the ultimate Daedric artifact of unlimited power. To do this, we must complete a Daedric quest, but before we can start it, we first need to find some glow dust. Now, you can find some for yourself just here in the Imperial Market District. There's lots of shops here that sell glow dust. Like the main ingredient, the Gilded Carafe, or the Emporium normally have at least one glow dust in stock or for sale which you can purchase. I though found one here in the main ingredient on the edge of the market district, and once you arrive you can just haggle with the price to get it as cheap as possible. Make sure you also pick up a cure disease potion while you're here too. Alternatively, you can find one for free just inside the Brummer's Mages Guild, inside the Brummer Mages Guild, which is located in the north of the map. And once you arrive in the city of Brummer, you can find the Mages Guild building just over here. And then if you go inside and then head to the left and go downstairs, you'll find the Mages Guild living quarters, which will be locked if you haven't joined the Mages Guild, and you can do that for free just by talking to this NPC here, which then allows you to steal and take everything in the Mages Guild for free. I, however, just broke in, headed down the corridor, and in this last room on the left here, you'll find a collection of alchemy ingredients on the table, and it's here you can steal the glow dust when nobody is watching, but obviously it won't count as stealing if you joined the Mages Guild. Now we have the offering, we can begin the Daedric quest. So to start this, we need to go to Cheydinhal in the northwest of the map, and then go directly north from Cheydinhal's main gate, past Lake Arius, and up the mountain path until you reach the Shrine of Azura, located just here on the map. Now you will need to be level 2 to start this quest. So if you haven't leveled up yet, just sleep in a bed, and then you'll be able to talk to the Dark Elf just in front of the shrine here to start Azura's Daedric quest. Now, before he'll tell you anything about the shrine itself, you'll need to get him to trust you. So you can either bribe him with some gold, or you can do the persuasion minigame. Basically, you just need to try and get the large segments to land on the things he likes the most, which is admire or boast, while getting the smaller red ones to land on the things he doesn't like. And after doing this a few times, he will like you enough that he will inform you that you need to make an offering of glow dust, which we already have, at either dawn or dusk to the Shrine of Azura. So we're going to wait until between 5 AM and 7 AM, and then we'll be able to make our offering to Azura. And then she'll give us a quest which sends us off to the Gutted Mine, which is located southwest from her shrine, just here on the map. It is a very short walk away. When you get here, it's actually quite an amazing view from the main entrance. Just make sure you save before you go inside. When you actually enter the dungeon though, you can jump over the trap, trigger the enemies, and then run back through it so the trap hits them. But all the enemies in this cave are vampires. and they can give you the disease which will eventually turn you into a vampire if they hit enough attacks on you. Which is why after you've taken out the enemies here, you'll want to use the cure disease potion, which will cure the disease before it takes hold of you. Don't worry though, you won't get vampirism unless you wait a few days and go to sleep. Just make sure you don't forget to use the cure disease potion, otherwise you will become a vampire and it's quite a long quest to get rid of it. But while you're in this dungeon, if you take a look at the local map by zooming into the larger map, you can see I've placed a marker here, and at that marker there is a secret passage that gives you a shortcut past all of the traps in the dungeon, revealing this secret stone wall, and you can just pass through and kill the rest of the vampires. You'll also find lots of silver ore veins in this dungeon and high leveled loot depending on your character's level. This guy's only level 2, so obviously the gold amounts are really small. But if you're level 30, you'll be finding hundreds of gold in this dungeon. In fact, there's another secret area just here on the map by my map marker, but to access it, you need to push down these wooden boards by activating them a few times to gain entry to the old coffin behind it. You'll then get a leveled amount of gold depending on your character's level. But once we've taken out all of the vampires here, you'll be able to return to Azura's shrine for a reward. And if you actually read the note on one of the vampires' body, it actually explains that these vampires were once the followers of Azura, who killed the legendary vampire Daedric, but unfortunately caught vampirism in the process and were turned into vampires, so locked themselves in this cave. And that's why Azura sent you to go and put them out of their misery. Anyway, now I can go back to the shrine and receive the Daedric artifact Azura's Star as a reward. Azura's Star functions as a unlimited use soul gem, because normally when you craft or recharge your enchanted weapons in Oblivion, the soul gem gets destroyed. But Azura's Star has unlimited uses. And since you can fill it with any level of soul from petty to greater, and then you can use all of those souls to give your weapons unlimited enchantment charge. And I'll explain how to set it up correctly later in the video. And then you'll never run out of weapon enchantment again. But before we can enchant our own weapons, we must first unlock the spell effects we need to enchant them. So to do this, we must fast travel southwest from the Imperial City to Skingrad, located just here on the map. And you're going to want to arrive from the western gate. And from here, there'll be a bridge in front of you, and if you just jump up the rocks towards the north side of the city, you can then head through the town, and eventually you'll arrive at the Skingrad Mages Guild. And you'll want to come here around 10 AM in the morning. In fact, we might as well join the Mages Guild while we're here, because then we can freely take any items from the guild without it counting as stealing. Especially all the alchemy equipment can be stolen from all 7 Mage Guild halls, and then sold back to them for easy early game money. That will cover the cost of you buying these spells if you want to get the gold legitimately. We can join by speaking to Adriana, the lady in the blue dress here, and just ask about the Mages Guild and joining, and she will sign you up. But now we need to get the spells that we actually came here for. So we first want to speak to Vig the Cautious, who's dressed in this terribly terrific purple fur coat. And he's going to sell us the Weakness to Magicka spell for 420 gold. But you can also haggle with him to get it even cheaper, especially if he likes you. Just keep going lower and lower until he accepts your offer. Now, if you don't have enough gold to buy all of the spells, make sure you watch my video on how to get unlimited gold. You can make millions in minutes by using the duplication glitch that I go over step by step on both console and PC in that video. I'll link it in the description below. Because next we need to buy some spells from Sullanus Vasinus. And just so you know, if any of these merchants aren't trading with you or they're not here, just wait until 10 AM so they're downstairs and open for business. Sometimes if they're busy doing something else or going somewhere, their shop won't be available. So you just need to wait. Now Sullanus will sell us the Soul Trap spell, which we obviously need to soul trap enemy souls in our soul gems and Azura's Star. And then we can use those to recharge our weapons. He will also sell us the Weakness to Shock spell, Weakness to Frost, and Weakness to Fire, which we also need to buy. And finally, you can also buy any cheap shock spell, the Hail Frost spell, and obviously you already start the game knowing a fire spell, so you don't need to buy that. And then we have all of the spells that we need to craft the best weapon in the game. So next we need to unlock the Enchanting altar, which can be done at level 1. You don't need to do the whole Mage Guild questline. You can just do it right at the start of the game. To do this, you must first travel to Frostcrag Spire, which is the giant wizard's tower on top of the mountain located in the far north of the map, just northeast from the town of Bruma. If you follow the road to the northeast, then you can go behind and up and around to the top of the mountain just by following the paths, which is much easier than trying to jump up it. Once you arrive at Frostcrag Spire, you're going to find that the front door is locked. Don't worry, you can find the key just to the left if you jump off the rocks here at the back of the tower. The key can be found in a chest right next to the abandoned campsite, and that key is going to allow you to open the door. Once you go inside, read the book on the Icy Claw, and then it's going to give you a new quest marker to furnish your property. To do this, we need to fast travel over to the Imperial City Market District, and once you arrive, you're going to walk to the right and then go along the shops here, and at the end, you're going to find the Mystic Emporium shop. Once you enter, you're going to want to speak with the she-elf and see what she has for sale. It's here that we're going to be able to buy all the furniture for Frostcrag Spire, though we specifically need the candles box, which costs around 2,000 to 3,000 gold each. You'll only need one for the spellcrafting altar, and the other one would be used for the enchanting altar, so it's still very useful to grab both. And if you don't have enough money, check out my unlimited gold farming method. I have to make 1,000,000 gold in a few minutes. After you've grabbed that, we can fast travel back to Frostcrag Spire and go inside. At the back on the left hand side, we're going to find the spell crafting altar. And now we can put the candles onto the enchanting and spell crafting altars by activating them. And then we're ready to use the enchanting altar to craft the ultimate weapon. However, before you can enchant the items with the spell effects that I showed you where to buy earlier, you will need to cast each spell at least once before it's unlocked at the enchanting altar. So if we have a look at our spells, you can see that the weakness to fire, frost, shock, and magicka spells are all destruction spells that require a level 25 destruction skill to cast. And you can check out my leveling guide for each one of those skills below if you want to do it as quick as possible, but it won't take you long to level these skills to level 25. And even if you're playing a warrior character, my goodness, is it worth doing this. Also, you have the shock and hailstone spells that also only need level 25 destruction to cast, and you already start the game knowing the fire spell, so you can already enchant weapons with it. Then finally, you have the soul trap spell on the other hand, which requires level 25 in the mysticism skill to cast. So after you've got the required skill levels, you're just going to go and cast each one of those spells, and then it's going to appear in the enchanting altar, so you can actually enchant your weapons with those different spell effects. And now we are finally ready to begin, or are we? Next, we need to find a grand soul to power our enchanted weapon. Now, in Oblivion Remastered, there are several levels of souls and soul gems that are used to contain those souls. They range from petty, lesser, common, greater, and then grand soul gems, which offers the same charge as a black soul gem. And as you can see on the bottom left of the enchanting altar, the larger the soul gem, the more powerful the item enchantment can actually be. So if I use a black or a grand soul gem with a grand soul inside, you can see that we now have a maximum power of 85 to play around with. This means that next we need to find a grand soul gem and then put a grand soul inside it. Now, to obtain an enemy soul, you just need to cast soul trap on that enemy and then kill it within the time limit. Then the enemy soul will automatically fill a soul gem or Azura star in your inventory. But to obtain a grand soul, we would normally need to soul trap and kill the following enemies: either a Gloomwraith, a Lich, a Minotaur Lord, or a Zavalai. Or if you're level 21 plus, ogres will also start to have grand souls as well. But one clever hack is to actually use the Summon Zivalai or Lich conjuration spell. And you can buy this from Borisi, who can be found here on the map at the Arcane University. If you talk to him, you can purchase both of these spells, and then you can use your conjuration skill to summon these creatures. And then if you just cast Soul Trap on it and then kill it, you will capture its grand soul in either Azura Star or your grand soul gem that you have in your inventory. Now, it is possible to buy a grand soul gem from the Mystic Emporium in the Market District. Both of them have a chance to sell grand soul soul gems for about 500 gold, and so do the Mage Guild merchants as well. But at early levels, the easiest way to get grand souls is from humans, but to capture a human soul, you're going to need a black soul gem. And you can craft black soul gems by first purchasing or stealing empty grand soul gems, and then traveling here on the map to Fort Limmichel, just northeast from Kvatch. Now in the center of this ruin, you're going to find the Necromancer's altar. However, you can only use the altar for 24 hours during the day of the Shade of the Revenant. You'll know that it's the right day because at nighttime there's going to be a giant red light above the Necromancer's altar in the sky, which looks like this. Now the Shade of the Revenant occurs once every 8 days, and there is also a calendar of dates, but it can change based on how many days you're in prison. So what I suggest that you do is wait at nighttime for 24 hours repeatedly until you see the red glow in the sky like this. And once you see it, we can then start crafting black soul gems. Now to do this, we will deposit our empty grand soul gems into the altar by using the search function. Then we will use the soul trap spell on the altar, and that's going to convert 1 grand soul gem to 1 black soul gem. So you will need to cast Soul Trap multiple times on the altar if you have more than 1 grand soul gem to convert. Now we have 9 empty black soul gems that we can capture human souls with. Now to capture a human soul, you can just kill any NPC, like a beggar for example, and that will always give you a grand soul captured within the black soul gem. Alternatively, you can go south of the map near Leowin and you can kill the bandits in Fort Blueblood, or you can go and kill the necromancers in Fort Double Cross. And that's a very fast way of farming grand soul gems early on before those higher level enemies actually start spawning in the game, or if you don't want to level up your conjuration skill. However, there is actually a third method to get a filled grand soul gem at level 1. The easiest way is to steal one, and you can do this at level 1 in the Arcane University. Just go ahead and enter the main hall, and then you'll see a locked display cabinet on the left hand side here with a very hard lock. Now if you wait until 11 PM to midnight, there'll only be 1 NPC waiting here in this room. And if you kind of walk around the room, he'll look at you, and then if you walk away, he will stay looking in that direction, which means you can kind of sneak around the back of the room, and then you'll be able to lockpick the display cabinet without him seeing you. Alternatively, you can just buy a weak invisibility potion from the Mystic Emporium back in the Market District. And then if you just drink that potion, you'll be invisible, and then no one will detect you when lockpicking. Now this is obviously a very hard lock, and if you want a full guide on how to lockpick like this, check out the guide linked in the description below. In that guide, I also show you how to get the unbreakable skeleton key as well. So you can just carry on auto attempting it until it unlocks. But even at my low lockpicking skill, I can easily unlock this, and this character's only level 2. Alternatively, you can just duplicate unlimited lockpicks using my unlimited gold guide, which I'll link down below too. Now inside the display cabinet is a grand soul gem, which is already filled with a grand soul. And since we're in the Mages Guild already, it doesn't count as stealing. We can just go ahead and take it. Before you use it though, you may want to duplicate it so you have access to multiple pre-filled grand soul gems at an early level. And again, the duplication guide is linked below. So now we have the grand soul to power our new enchanted weapon. We actually need to get a weapon to enchant. And the thing is that you can actually enchant any weapon. It doesn't really matter because the base damage of the weapons is comparatively extremely low when you compare it to the enchantment damage that we're about to craft. So technically you could use enchanted iron weapons on master difficulty and still be absolutely fine. Alternatively, you can use whatever weapon looks cool, like amber and madness weapons to maximize your damage, or even Daedric weapons. And I've got guides on how to get all of these items linked below, but the best weapon type to use is a one-handed blade weapon, and arguably a dagger is going to be even better than a short sword or a long sword because it attacks very fast, which means you can apply the enchantment even faster, and it's the enchantment that will be doing the damage. I myself am going to be using a Daedric bound dagger, which you can obtain at level 1 by using the glitch that I'll link in the guide below if you want to do it. And now finally, to enchant the weapon, we must come to the enchanting altar here in Frostcrag Spire. And we need to add the weapon that we want to enchant, and then we're going to add the grand soul gem with the grand soul to power it. Next, we need to create the weapon's enchantment, and it's very important that you do this in the correct order. I'll explain why as we go, but all will become clear once you see the weapon in action, and also I have some damage spreadsheets to show you how the enchantment buff stacking works. So firstly, we're going to add Soul Trap for a magnitude of 1 and a duration of 1. It only needs to be 1 second because you will eventually kill the enemy in 1 hit. And when that happens, you will fill Azura's Star with their soul, which you can then use to recharge your weapon. And by using this loop, you'll never run out of weapon enchantment. Secondly, we're going to be adding shock damage on strike, and we'll increase the magnitude to 10 damage. And its duration is only 1 second, so it applies 10 damage instantly on hit. Now this may seem like not a lot of damage right now, but I will explain how this stacks to thousands of damage later. Also, if you are wondering why we're using shock as our elemental damage type, it's because most of the enemies in Oblivion are weak to it or have no resistance to shock damage. In fact, even enemies that are 100% resistance to shock damage, like the Storm Atronach, can still be killed in just a few hits on Master difficulty. Because with this setup, we're removing all of their resistances anyway. But that said, you could technically use any elemental effect, but overall shock is going to be the best. Secondly, we're going to use weakness to shock on strike, and the magnitude will be 100%, while the sweet spot for the duration is 3 seconds. Finally, we're going to apply the weakness to magic on strike, and the magnitude will also be 100%, and the duration is also going to be 3 seconds. Now, the reason why you want the durations of these two weakness spells to be 3 seconds is so that if the enemy attacks you, you can block, you can get staggered, you can even heal yourself, and you have enough time to hit your next attack and carry on stacking those weakness to magic effects. Alternatively, if you want to increase it to 4 seconds, this will result in less charges on the weapon, but you'll have more time to block attacks and heal yourself between weapon swings. But I think 3 seconds is the best spot to have it in. And if you're wondering, the reason why we have the apply weakness to shock and then apply weakness to magic last is because you cannot buff the elemental damage in the same hit. This means that your second hit will get buffed by those damage effects that your first hit already applied. And then it will stack again with your third hit and then your fourth and so on, creating a snowball of more and more damage with each consecutive hit. And once you reach the 10th hit, you're dealing 1000 damage. Or in total, if you add up all the previous hits, you've now dealt 3850 shock damage in those 10 hits, which is enough to kill any enemy in the game. And after you've killed that enemy, you'll then have its soul in Azura's Star, so you can just use it to recharge the dagger, essentially giving you unlimited enchantment access. However, as you can see, the damage does take a little bit of time to ramp up to these insane levels, and we can actually boost the damage even further. There's a couple of ways of doing this. The first way is just to boost the amount of shock damage that the weapon does. Instead of doing 10 shock damage, we can make it do 20 shock damage. This does mean that the weapon only has 21 charges instead of 29, but we are dealing double the damage. And that's enough damage to take out the Daedric Prince, Lord Dagon, by stacking damage much faster than normal. But there's actually a much more efficient method of stacking damage if we combine it with spell crafting. So if we go back to Frostcrag Spire and we create a spell of weakness to shock 100%, and then weakness to magic 100%. And for the duration of the spell, we don't want it to be too high because otherwise it's going to cost us a lot of magicka to cast. So to figure out the optimal duration, I calculated the amount of attacks that we do per second with a dagger, which is 1.4. Then if we did the duration for 10 seconds, we know that we can fit in 14 attacks. And this is more than enough to kill anything in the game anyway, and we can also just reapply it if needed. I'm also going to make this a touch spell because it costs less magicka than making it into a ranged spell. So now when we use this spell on an enemy and then we start hitting them with our dagger afterwards, we end up with this new damage table. And as you can see, our damage stats quadruple multiplicatively. So after 10 hits, we've dealt 26,000 damage in total, compared to the 6,500 damage that we would do if we didn't cast the spell with the damage from the enchanted dagger. And if we use the dagger that deals 20 shock damage, it would actually be 11,520 damage on the 12th hit. And that's over 51,880 damage in total. And all that damage is output in under 10 seconds. Obviously though, there's no enemies in the game that have that much health, but I'm just showing you what's possible, and it's up to you how far you take this. The only thing you're going to have an issue with is that when there are multiple enemies, you have lots of people doing damage to you. And on Master difficulty, you take 6 times the amount of damage. So if you check out this video over here, I'll show you how you can become completely immune to damage. And again, it's up to you how far you want to take that, but I think 35% is a nice risk reward.